and glad to be joining you to do this. My video looks like it's getting a little choppy. Hopefully the Microsoft Office 365 teams can keep up with everything. They have been obviously having a lot more usage the last few days with everything going on. So that's part of the reason we wanted to get on here, just talk to you guys, answer questions as best we can. Maybe we'll do some more of these too. We talked about doing just some open office hours, some more webinars. If you would like to see more, let us know in the Q&A. Again, that's your way to communicate to us. So the way we're doing this through a Teams live event. There isn't a way for you guys to unmute yourselves, for you guys to converse with us via audio when we're doing this live event. So it is just the text-based through the Q&A. If you see me looking away, I have multiple monitors to make sure I can see everything. So I'm not always going to be looking at my camera, but those are just a couple ways to communicate with us. We'll try to keep an eye on the Q&A, respond accordingly. And just go through some tips and tricks here. So if you want to find me too, just search for Ben Stedjink. I am literally the only Ben Stedjink out there. So searching for my name, I own the first 10 results of all the search pages. I also have a podcast. I'm wearing the shirt, but you can't see it, the Microsoft Cloud IT Pro Podcast. So feel free to go listen to that. We have a bunch of Teams episodes and other Office 365 and Azure related episodes. So again, enough about me. Let's just dive into some of the Teams stuff here. If you're new to Teams, this is Teams in a nutshell right here. Just a blank canvas, and we're going to kind of start up at the top and go down through the Teams interface just to highlight some of the tips, tricks, some of the things that might be useful for you, especially if you're getting used to Teams, using it for the first time. I know a lot of people just got thrown into this. All of a sudden it was like, you're working from home, here's Teams, let's start using it. To start with activity. Activity really just gives you a snapshot of what's been going on across all of your teams. You can see in this one, I have a couple missed calls. I do have some other team windows up here that I'll jump around between, but this is going to show chats, missed calls, things that may have happened within Teams that you missed. So this is a good place to start if you're popping open Teams in the morning, coming in right away, and you just want to see what's been going on, what you might have missed. You can also filter this out. So in a few different spots, look for this little funnel. This can be very useful if your team has gotten large, you have lots of activities going on, where you can just start typing in here to filter down. This doesn't have a lot of activity in it, so it's not going to be as useful in terms of filtering. But you can see here it highlighted Chris. It's going to find that stuff that mentions Chris. Going into chat a little bit, there's a lot of stuff you can do in chat without ever even going into Teams, especially when it comes to communicating with different coworkers within your team. Down here, I have a few recent one-to-one chats. I also have some group chats up here. And again, you have this filter. So if I'm looking for something about a specific project, I can just click the filter, start typing it in, and it'll filter down some of those chats that I've had about a particular topic. You may notice too, I have some of these chats here where they don't have people, they actually have a topic. One very nice thing you can do in Teams is you can have group chats. This button up here starts a new chat. If you want to do a group chat, you can go start chats with multiple people. So I'm just going to throw a couple people in this chat. I'm doing this as Ben, but I have Cynthia. And this is a group chat, and let's add David. So we can have this group chat where we can start sending messages and having a conversation about some topic. This conversation, that was Project X already, but if you want to rename this, by default, these group chats will just show all of the users. But maybe that group chat is about a certain topic or a certain project. Clicking this little pencil up here on your group chat actually allows you to rename the chat. So we'll do demo chat for tips and tricks. And it also makes it easier to find these chats if you want to pin a certain one. These I've pinned. You can go up here too to highlight certain group chats. You can click on unpin and it'll move it down here into your recent. Or on the opposite side, if you are trying to remember a chat, you're trying to find it, or it's more important, you can always click on these three dots next to it and pin this chat up at the top. All of your pinned chats will always show up here at the top. You can expand, contract these pins, look at them that way. Also, within a group chat, you may notice up at the top here, you have some tabs. You have chat, you have files. Files gives you a look at all of those files that have been shared in a chat. This one doesn't have any of them. I'm going to go back down to my Project B chat and click on files. And here is all the files that have been shared within the chat. So if people are having a conversation, sharing files, posting files, and you don't necessarily want to try to have to scroll up through that whole conversation to find files, quickly clicking on files will give you a list of those. You can also add other tabs, and we may look at tabs as we get into some of the meetings and an overview of meetings, but this is where you can add additional things such as a PowerPoint. And we can go select this PowerPoint that was shared in the chat earlier and actually pin this up to the top of our team chat now. So we can quickly jump over to that PowerPoint, take a look at the PowerPoint presentation and make changes to it, edit it, view that. So all of this stuff can be done just within a chat. If a person is not invited to a chat, can other users still view the conversation? No, so that's the nice thing about chats is this is going to stay private to whoever you invited, and you can always go modify who is in this chat later too. You can add people, you can leave the chat, you can remove people from the chat. This is just a private chat within the team. One other thing with the group chats is that ability to call or do a video call or an audio call with everybody in the group chat. So this will automatically trigger off a video call or an audio call that anyone within that group chat, they all get invited to it, they can jump on it. You can have a quick call without having to worry about a meeting, without having to worry about it getting published to a team. It is just it's just for those people within that group. Another thing you can do is as you're going through these different messages, you have lots of options down here. Have fun with your chats. Everybody's stuck at home. They aren't able to interact with everybody. You can put emojis in here. You can put GIFs in here. You can praise people. So go in, send someone a praise, tell them that they did an awesome job. Just have some fun with it as you're playing with these chats. Fortunately, I cannot praise myself, but I can go praise Cynthia. Cynthia did an awesome job. Let's go ahead and send it. The other thing you can do is you can actually schedule meetings too for everybody in a group chat. So clicking on the schedule meeting will pop up a new meeting, automatically adds everybody to that meeting. You can give it a title, and this will automatically schedule a team meeting just for those people in the chat. You don't really have to do anything else other than adding a title and clicking send, and it will schedule that meeting with everybody in your group chat. Again, a lot of stuff you can do with these group chats without even needing to dive into some of the teams, the calendar, all of that, because sometimes you can find those teams do get a little bit more limited depending on what your IT department is doing, if they have locked it down at all. This is one of those ways to have all of these without having to spin up a bunch of different teams within your environment. Oh, saving a message. This is another one. If there's a message you want to save, maybe you're curious or you want to save this message about the latest version of a presentation. You can actually save messages for later in Teams as well. So hovering over any of these messages and clicking the three dots, you have options to mark it as unread if you do want to keep a message unread. But you also have the save this message option. So clicking on save this message will save your message. And later, if you want to go back and find all of your saved messages, let's just save a couple of them here. Save this message. If you click on your picture up here, one of the options you have about 3 down is saved. If you click on that, it will bring you to another area of Teams where it shows all your saved messages here. So here's that saved message about this is a new file. Here is the saved message about the latest version of the presentation. So it gives you a way to kind of highlight some of those chats, those different conversations you're having within your team, and coming back to those at a later point in time. We can go back to our chat now. Contacts, just a quick overview of contacts. This is something, if you've been using Teams already for a week, you can probably go through, figure out pretty easily, but adding new contacts, you have your groups up here. I have a My Group and a Favorites. It's just adding a contact to the group and starting to type in their name. So David is one of the internal people to my organization. If you do have external conversations, external communications allowed, you can do this with external users too. So I'm going to use my work email address, and you can see as I type this, IntelliGenk, it's showing up as a guest. You have the difference between a guest and an external user. Guest tries to invite them into your Teams environment. If you keep typing out a full email address, you'll also have this option for search for that user externally. This doesn't invite them into your Teams environment. It doesn't give them that special guest account, but it rather just adds them as an external user that you can go in and converse with. You will have some limited options. You can't add external users into groups, but you can go have conversations with those external users. And you can do a few fun things yet, like the GIFs and adding the rich text and scheduling meetings with them. You can move contacts around, remove them from groups, notify you when they're available. And then if you do want to create new contact groups for maybe people in your department, you have that button to create a new contact group. And we can have our tips and tricks group right here that we can start adding contacts into. Meetings. Well, is there a limit to how many chats are saved? Not that I'm aware of, Kim. I think you can save as many as you want to. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to go flip through some of these questions a minute too to see if there's any that we want to hit right away. How to set up notifications each time we get a new chat. Notifications when you get a new chat should be enabled by default. You may have even seen some of them popping up down here. It could depend on if you're using Teams in the browser versus using Teams in the desktop client. If it's in the browser, you do have to enable notifications, and that's a setting in the browser and varies based on the browser. I've got a group chat with Alice and Bob. Oh, multiple chats with different people with identical participants named differently. Anonymous, I don't think you can do that because kind of like you saw in mine, when I went to add the same people, it automatically popped it up to that project A. That may have to be something that you end up doing when you get into Teams and meetings. Notification, yeah, kind of like you saw mine, the one at the bottom in mine was Windows 10. Mac OS pops them up in the upper right. See, it never allows you to create a group if they're outside. Yeah, that's correct, Kim. If they're outside your organization, you can't create a group chat with them. The workaround for that is going to be when we go into Teams, you can add an external vendor if you're doing vendor projects into an actual team. But yeah, you can't do group chats yet with external users. Let's jump down into Teams because this kind of correlates with the group chat. So here you can see I do have a few teams created. Creating or joining teams does depend some on admin settings. Some admins will block your ability to join or create teams. If you do have that ability, all you need to do to join or create a team is click down here and create a team. I am going to go ahead and create one and just build one from scratch. If you do have templates, there are ways to create templatized or to create a team that matches one that already exists. Maybe if you have a consistent team look for projects, you can do that. But we're just going to build from scratch. Private, people need permission to join. This is something you may want to do for something like HR or executives where you don't want just anybody from your company finding the team and joining into it. Public is out there. Anybody can see it. Anybody can jump into it. There's no permission required to jump into one of these public teams. And then org-wide, I believe you're still only allowed one of these per organization. This is a team that any user in your company is automatically added to. So this is going to be kind of that high level. This is a big team or a small team, depending on your organization size, of everybody in the organization. Let's just do a public team, and we'll do tips and tricks team and click create. Hopefully this goes out and creates. This is one of the ones Microsoft has said they have seen delays of up to 92 hours creating these with the increased load on the servers. Something to be aware of, especially in these next few weeks as more and more people are using Teams, is create them ahead of time. Don't stress out if you create it and it's not there right away. Give it a day, 2 days, 3 days, and it should be there soon. Adding members at this point in time, if you have people you know you want to be in the team, you can go start typing their names in and adding them. This is also where you can see I can add a guest. So you can't add external users. Oh, you can have, thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer just said you can have up to 5 org-wide teams now per tenant. I missed that announcement. There's lots of announcements that go out there, but thanks for letting us know. If you're going to add an external user, they do have to be a guest. So I can't just go out and add an external user without inviting them into my tenant, but I can add those guest accounts. Again, this is something that can be enabled or disabled by your admin. So if you do need to add guests in and you can't, go ask your admins about it. If you can, great. Type in their email address. It'll send them a notification to be added as a guest. We can go add those users in. It'll go create them. And from here, you'll notice my guest account, I can only set as a guest. Any of these other ones, if I do want them to be an owner of the team, I can adjust them at this level. The owners are going to have more permissions to create things, to do things, to modify those teams than a member will. A member can still go add, edit documents, files, work with conversations. Depending on your settings, owners can actually do things like delete messages that are posted within the team. So we're going to go ahead and close this. And you'll notice that a team, you have that same conversation, the same dialogue. Some of these things you can do too within here are @mention people. So if you've ever used Facebook, Twitter, any of those, you might be familiar with @mentions, where you can go in, mention someone, Chris Green, hey, how's it going? And this will also send Chris a notification. If he's not in Teams, he'll get an email that you've been mentioned within the team so that it makes sure he gets this message. One thing to be aware of in Teams, this is really confusing. I see a lot of people do this, and part of it is frankly just Microsoft's UI, is it's very easy to reply by typing another one down here. And I see a lot of people doing it. If you can, remember to hit the reply underneath that and respond there to keep these conversations, to keep the subject of a particular message the same, rather than always going down here and doing something like this. Are you there? If you don't reply under that initial conversation, these Teams messages can get confusing in terms of who's talking to who, how messages are being sent back and forth. You have all those same options down here as well. You will notice the one you don't have down here is scheduling a meeting within a channel. If you're going to schedule those channel meetings, you're going to end up doing those from the calendar tab, from one of those other places, not right down here within a team conversation. Files up at the top will give you a location for files. One difference to keep in mind here for files is that files in Teams are stored in a SharePoint site. Files in this group chat over here that we were looking at before are actually stored in the OneDrive account of someone that owned it. It can be important to know from an admin perspective. From an end user perspective, it's probably not as big of a deal to understand where those files are getting stored, but that is something you may want to keep in the back of your head. Once you're in your files, you can go create Word documents right from here, Excel documents, PowerPoints. Just go create a new document. It'll automatically create that document, bring you right into Word within Teams, where you can go in and start editing your document, working on your document. It will get automatically saved. So when you're done, you just hit close and that new document will be there. You can upload documents from your computer by clicking the upload. Go browse your computer for whatever document you may want to upload. Do external users, not guests, need Teams to join a chat? External users need some form of Teams. They could join in the Well, yes, they're going to have Teams or Skype for Business. You can actually chat with a Skype for Business user between Teams and Skype for Business, but they're going to have either Teams or Skype for Business. And on the back end, the servers are picking up where they are so that they can actually go figure out how to send a message to that external user. I hope that answers your question, Randy. If you do want to go to your SharePoint library, you have the option to open the SharePoint site that is associated with this. So if you've used SharePoint, if you're familiar with it, and if you'd rather work over in SharePoint, that gives you that option to jump over to SharePoint, log into SharePoint, and interact with files there. For the interest of time and getting to some of these questions too, I'm not going to log in and go through that. We can do a whole nother one of these on SharePoint if we need to. Another option too is you can add additional cloud storage. So if you do have other SharePoint sites, I have Google Drive enabled in this. This is one that administrators will sometimes disable too, but there is options to add additional SharePoint sites to your team if you have other files stored there. So I may have these site collection documents that I also want to add to this files section within Teams. And this allows me to add other file storage locations to Teams. Tabs is another thing, kind of like we saw in group chat. You can go through and start adding additional tabs, whether that's files, if you're using other services like Planner for tracking tasks, if you want to post PDF files, or even third-party ones. Different ones like Meister Task is another one people will use for task management. That's a third-party app you can add. Go explore these if you're using other third-party applications and you want to kind of bring everything into Teams so you can have one place to go to look at stuff, to leverage stuff. You can add a lot of other stuff into Teams, even YouTube. If you want to post a video within your team, you can post a YouTube video within Teams. So lots of options there as well. Anonymous had a question that I had talked about before. If documents from the group chat are stored in a OneDrive location, does only the people in the group chat have permission to that document? Yeah, so OneDrive and Teams are intelligent to talk between each other on the back end to essentially just give permissions to relevant people for those OneDrive files. Our private teams, so Doc, there are private teams hidden or visible but not joined. They are visible but not joinable. There is someone might be able to help me out on this on chat. There is another, I can't remember, they call it something other than private. There's a third option that is either rolling out in preview or will be out soon that is going to be private and hidden so people don't know it exists. But currently, when you saw those two options when I created a team, those are private. You can't join them without permission or being invited, but you can see that they exist. Again, you have your filter up here. Another thing you can do within a team is you can have multiple channels. So right now you can see in our tips and tricks team, we have the one general channel. If you want to create something about a particular topic within the team, so maybe you want to create something that is our demo instead of general, we can do demo. And they do have some of these privacy options now between a private channel and a standard channel. This is another one, I can't remember where it is in the deployment phase. Private is going to be only accessible to the specific people you give channel access to. Standard, everybody in the team is going to have access to it. If you just add this, it will add another channel under that tips and tricks team where you can have additional conversations. You have new files, so you'll notice I don't have the same files under demo that I had in general. You can add your own tabs. So it's a sub area of the team where you can post additional topics if you want to kind of narrow it down. Some of these teams can have a ton of different channels. 17, I've seen them 17, 18, 19, 20 different channels. You do have the option to hide ones you don't want to see. Maybe not all of the channels are relevant to you. You can hide one, and then if you're not selecting it, it'll just show as a hidden channel, and you can go view those hidden channels, choose to show them. If you aren't active in a channel, it will start auto-hiding channels as well if it kind of detects that it may not be something that you are interested in. At a high level, that's going to be your teams and your channels. kind of like some of you have said, there's a lot of different things you could do. We could easily spend all day just talking about Teams. Let's jump down to calendars, just because I do want to show you some of the calendars in the meetings here. This calendar will pull in from your Outlook calendar as well. This one will give you some of those additional, it'll give you meetings on your calendar, but also show you some of those Teams meetings. And this is where you can schedule different team meetings as well. If you just have to have a one-off meeting, you want to meet now and just blast the link out to people or email it to people, you can do a meet now. It'll trigger a brand new meeting, set it up, join the meeting. You can see my camera again, and you'll get a link to send it to people. You don't need to schedule it. You don't need to click a time. It's literally, let's start a meeting now, and here's the link to get on it. If you want to schedule one, you do have a new meeting here where you can go in, schedule a meeting, and do a new scheduled meeting. This is where too, if you want it to be in a specific channel, this will show you the teams. We did tips and tricks and demo. This will automatically schedule this meeting in that demo channel and allow those users of that demo channel to get to the meeting. That would be how you would schedule a meeting within this demo channel. It would show up within the Teams meeting, but it would also show up on your calendar here. You can have one place to go look to schedule those meetings. You can schedule meetings from Outlook too. So if you have the Teams app installed and you have Outlook installed and you want to go schedule new meetings, you will get a new Teams meeting icon right up in your menu bar where you can click on schedule a new Teams meeting and it'll connect to your Teams environment, go schedule that whole meeting in Teams, automatically put the information for the Teams meeting in Outlook. This you can send to external people, to internal people, and they'll all be able to use this link to go join into the meeting, assuming that your admins have actually allowed you to schedule those meetings. Let's go close out of Outlook and calls, video calls, audio calls. This really is just, hey, let's go call people. Let's go give Chris a call. We can either call him and just use audio, call him and use video. All of these options also work on the mobile apps in Teams. So you can make calls from the mobile Teams app if you have that installed on an iPad, Android, iOS, any of those devices. The last thing I want to show you guys is this command box. So if you're in these different areas, the command box can be nice for quickly doing something. It will give you that hint at the top, type a slash or an app for a list of commands, and it will pop all of those up. So if I do want to chat with somebody, I can do chat, Cynthia, hey Cynthia. It doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter what team I'm in. It'll go send that message. If I do hit enter, it'll go bring me over to the chat where we started talking. So there's different commands with the slash where you can go look for files. You can set your status to do not disturb or busy or away. You can do a who. This is a nice one, is if you are in a big company and you want to figure out who somebody is, what their phone number is, you can use this who, and let's type in David for who, and it may prompt you to install the Who bot. This is Microsoft's Who bot. If you just click add, it'll go add that in, and then you can go look up like who is David, and it'll go out to your company, find, allow. I did not set this up because I wanted to show you guys how this process worked. It'll go install that bot, give it permission, and find all of David's information for me. So I can quickly find his phone number, who he is, where he works. Once that's installed, you can do it with anybody who Cynthia, and it'll take you right to that Who bot, give you all of Cynthia's information. If you're in a big company, it's kind of a nice, handy little people directory type of functionality where you can find them and work with people that way. You may have noticed once I installed Who, it showed up down here. There are these other apps that you can pin and add to the left side here as well. So if I right click on it, I can pin it, I can block it, I can uninstall it, and then that'll just stay right down this left side for me. Command box was this can be used for searching, for praising, for looking up weather, YouTube, working with different apps. Go ahead and just play with that chat box a little bit. You're not really going to be able to break anything. You'll be able to see what it does, see what you can take advantage by using that command box. There was a lot of information there, but I definitely want to make sure I get time to answer questions too. How do you delete a chat history? Kent, that is something that your admins may be able to do if admins can control that. If you are the owner of a channel, you can go into chat and you can delete chats. I don't know if I gave myself owner rights on this. So I can go in and delete chats. Most users can delete their own. Depending on how it's set up, it depends on if you can delete others or not. Deleting chats kind of gets a little sticky sometimes, but that is a lot of times controlled by your admin user. Okay, I'm going to start trying to knock out these questions in the last 15 minutes. I am available to stay on a little bit longer if we don't get through all of them, but I also want to be sensitive of other people that need to get going. Maybe they jumped in on their lunch break, or it's bedtime where you are. I know there's people from all over the world that jumped in. So I'm going to get through these as quick as I can, and I will stay on and try to answer all of these. So the first question, how do you implement a rooms list so that you can schedule meetings from the Teams app and choose a rooms name? This pulls from Exchange Online. So in theory, hopefully you have Exchange Online set up and you can set those up, but that's going to pull from your admin center. And I don't know if you're an admin, or if you have to go talk to your admins, but within your Office 365 environment, you have a resources, show all. So right down here in mine, I have these resources. If I expand out resources here, or this is also a resource in Exchange if people are familiar with the Exchange Admin Center, and mine is loading slowly right now. But this is where you can go add a resource room. So I do have large conference room and small conference room here in mine. So if I am scheduling a new meeting, those resources will show up now. Those conference rooms should show up then when you're choosing that location there as pulling from that admin center. Yes, it is not pulling from it, but it should pull from that same resource list in your Exchange Online. Is there a way to do a video conference through Teams with multiple team members? Yes. So if you want to do a video conference with multiple team members, it's going to be scheduling one of these meetings or from that group chat that we saw earlier. So if I would go in here and do a video conference here, it's going to go start a video conference. It pulls in this video. As other people would jump in, if they're turning on their cameras and videos, they can all jump in and you can do a large video conference with videos that way. So it's just one of those meetings or a video call within a group chat that will allow you to do those video conferences, Sharon. New to Teams, I'm wondering, there's not a way to force a webcam on automatically, primarily for privacy reasons. You never know where somebody might be when they jump on a meeting. I already saw a video this week of somebody walking into the bathroom, not realizing their video camera was on while they were on a web meeting with their entire company. So for those privacy reasons, there's not a way to force it on automatically, just because you never know where somebody might be when they jump on a meeting. You can start a video call. It'll kind of prompt them, remind them to turn on a video, but there's not a way to force it, Hannah. Calendar view in Teams to a month view. No, sorry, you can only do day, work week, or week at this point in time. You can do it in Outlook. Meetings are going to show up in both places. They're tied together. But yeah, in Teams right now, there's not a way to do anything more than the week, and you can do a day too. So that you change right up here in the upper right-hand corner. I've noticed over the past week that we often have a video delay, words don't match. Kim, before this week, no. Microsoft has seen approximately, I have heard different numbers. I've heard a 40% increase in Teams usage over the last week. I've heard up to an 80 to 90% increase in usage of Office 365 as a whole. Because of the current situation of everybody finds themselves in, Microsoft is doing everything that they possibly can to scale this up to keep everything working and running. But you do not build something as big as Office 365 is with the capability of scaling it 80 or 90% over the course of a week or two. Usually you're scaling it up by 2, 3, 4% every few weeks. So there are certain functionalities that there are seeing delays. There's some performance stuff going on right now. Be patient. They'll get there. They'll get it fixed. There's just been a massive influx in utilization that is causing some of these issues that we've seen, particularly in the last couple weeks, and as a lot of schools are coming back from spring break, and schools use Office 365 quite a bit too. So I would expect it to get better. Unfortunately, I'm not sure when. For our own uses, reasons to prefer Teams live meetings over generic Teams meetings, such as lighter bandwidth. I have seen the normal Teams meetings versus Teams live work much better from video quality, from screen sharing quality, all of that. I tend to go with a normal Teams meeting as much as I can. Teams Live is really this type of scenario where we want to be able to sit here, talk to you. Think of Teams Live as more of a TV type broadcast, with a Teams meeting is an interactive internal company meeting. That's where I tend to go. And from a lighter bandwidth, I don't know that it's lighter bandwidth. It seems to work better from a video quality perspective when you're actually doing those internal Teams meetings. Probably also why those are limited to, I think, 250 people, where you can do these broadcast meetings up to 10,000 people. We are migrating from Link, Skype for Business to Teams. On our Windows machines, we're accustomed to Skype acting like a macOS application. Closing all the windows does not exit the program. Seems like Teams acts like a Windows application. Closing the window also exits the program. Is there a way to adjust Teams so that the X button won't close the program? I am on a Mac. I don't know. How's that for a terrible answer? Yes, do all of these. There you go. Click on your button. We found it. We have the answer. Click on your little picture in Windows, go to your settings, and then just start clicking check boxes. If you want it to auto start, you want it to keep open in the background, and then close, keep the application running. That'll keep it running in the background. How do you share a whiteboard? It's enabled in the admin settings, but I don't see that option when doing the share button during a conference call. I have not used Whiteboard a lot. I tend to use OneNote. So Zoom versus Teams. Santos kind of answered this one too. I would say from a pure video conferencing call, there's pros and cons to both of them. The biggest thing is that it's included with Office 365. In Teams, like you've seen, you can manage your files in it. You can add different tabs to it. You can really spend your whole day just working in Teams, collaborating and working with your teammates. Zoom is really just going to be a pure web conference solution. So that's kind of the pros and cons between them. But yeah, from the whole video conference call, there's not much difference there. It's just little stuff here and there, but nothing to me that's a deal breaker for one versus the other. When you create a meeting through chat, it does flow through to your Outlook calendar. So it does just create a normal meeting that will flow through to that Outlook calendar, give you an invite to the meeting and all of that. Meeting setting, automatically call the members when the meeting begins. No, the best you can do is it'll give them a notification that says, hey, there's a meeting going on, the meeting started. There's no way to automatically dial them in that I am aware of. You can add an Office 365 group when you add a member. Yes, so you should be able to add groups and pull everybody in. Thanks for that tip, Jennifer. So if you are working on a team and you do add a member and you don't want to do people, but you want to do an Office 365 group, it'll add all the members of that group. Ben, what's the best way to collaborate on a file stored in a private channel with somebody who is not a member of the private channel? Copy and paste it somewhere where they can get to it. Frankly, email it to them. That's the best I can do there, Ben. I don't have a good solution for that in terms of letting people just see selected content in a private channel. Maybe it belongs in a public channel in the same group, but there's not really a good way. I mean, I suppose if it's in a private channel, you could go to the SharePoint site and share it from the SharePoint site. Let me think through this. I don't know if that'll work either, because those are weird sites. You could try it. I would try it with a test user, is go to the SharePoint site that is sitting behind the private channel where that file is stored and actually share just the file itself from there. Best practice and when to create a new channel in an existing team as opposed to creating a new team. There are not necessarily a do it this way and that way. I would say teams are going to be more that high level, kind of like I had here. I had a marketing team, and then maybe I have one that's doing social media, maybe one that's doing telemarketing. Think of channels as sub-containers from a team. So if you have the server team, and then maybe you have someone that's dealing with, you want to have a Linux team and you want to have a Windows Server 2016 team or a Windows Server team. It's one of those exercises you kind of want to think through in terms of channels versus teams. The other thing is that everybody in a team goes into a channel. Unless you do private channels, I could talk for an hour just on private channels. Frankly, I don't like private channels. I would do a new team before I would do a private channel for a variety of reasons. But think of it kind of that way too, as a new team is going to be a whole new group of users, where a channel is going to include everybody that's already in the team. So that helps break it up. If you don't want HR as a channel under a org-wide team, because you probably don't want everybody in an org-wide team getting to the HR channel, which they're going to get by default because of the whole channel to team relationship. If I create a team, can anyone I add to that team start a chat within that team? Or am I the only one who can start said chat? So once you're in a team, Mike, anybody that's in the team starts a chat. So think of chats as an open dialogue. Chat is essentially, let's sit everybody down in a conference room and anybody in there can just start talking whenever they want to. There are no restrictions on, I'm a member of the team, but I can't talk in it. Whiteboard, Anonymous, email me about the whiteboard, because for whatever reason, whiteboard isn't responding in here. I may not have it turned on in this tenant either. That could be my problem here, but I can even jump on a call with you if you're open to it to just talk through the whiteboard, because you've had a couple of questions about the whiteboard.
I think the whiteboard only works when you're actually in a meeting, not on a live meeting.
Add it? Can you not add it as a tab?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
After the fact, or in these, but I think you have to do it inside the meeting. But I'll double check too.
Okay. Yeah, if you're okay, a follow-up was this about the whiteboards, Anonymous. If your PC doesn't have speakers or microphone, can you screen share on the computer and do video, audio? Yes, you can. I have done that before. I've also done that when the audio is just terrible. Kind of like you saw when I was in one of these meetings, you can turn off your camera, you can turn off your speakers, and you can just share your screen and then go dial in using a phone for audio. That does work.
Now that's if with Teams, that's if you have a audio conferencing plan.
Yes.
Not everyone has a audio phone number on it, but you can add it. I think it's like $5 per user per month. So if any of you guys are Office 365 admins, that's something you can add for individuals or your whole group. They'll have their own phone number to dial into.
Yep. Terry, there is not a way to adjust those notifications for Teams. It is what it is. There's also some things where notifications for Teams show up even when you're do not disturb. Yeah, there's nothing you can do. You kind of get what you get with notifications for Teams. Joe, can you recover deleted chat archive? This one's an interesting one. By default, no. But within Office 365, you do have retention policies that you can apply to Teams, which will automatically retain chats and archive chats for set periods of time or indefinitely. So from a recovery retainability standpoint, when it comes to Teams, it's going to be involved or included in the whole Office 365 retention policies and configuration of those retention policies. And again, that's another one of those. It could probably be an entire day just going through those, but that would be what you want to look at. How many video images can you see? It seems like 4. Yeah, that would be one difference between Zoom and Teams is the amount of videos. You can't do like the nice tiled view with Teams that you can do with Zoom. It tries to jump between who's talking and make them big and put everybody else kind of small along the bottom. Multiple calendars, or is it a shared calendar? So this calendar is essentially my personal calendar. It is not showing anybody else's. So It kind of functions more as my personal calendar, and it sends out meeting invites to everybody else. If you want to do shared calendars, org calendars, you can do Exchange shared mailboxes. You can do SharePoint calendars. There's some different ways you can do shared calendars, leveraging the Office 365 platform. When will the feature to change your background on video? I don't know. I would like that. You can do background blur. I was going to show some of that. Right now, blur is the only thing. I don't know when the feature for changing your background is coming out anonymous. How to fix some up-die, side-down screens. Tell the user to flip their device around. That's about it. People do this and have fun with it. It's kind of a pain, but that's about it, is flip their mobile device around to fix upside-down video. Michelle, to change the name of the general channel. I have never tried to do that. I don't think you can, though. Can you rename it? Manage channel, general. I don't believe you can rename general, Michelle. I see your last name there too, so I know who you are, so I can follow up with you on that one. But I don't think that's an option. Meeting invitation to share the whiteboard. There, Jennifer Q, Anonymous, if you're still on, you have to go into the meeting invitation to share the whiteboard as per Jennifer. Greg, why not just use Zoom that is available to the whole world? Teams is only available. Yeah, if all you're looking for is a video conferencing platform, Greg, Zoom is a great option. I use Zoom for doing some podcast stuff. If you're just purely looking for a web conference solution, I'm not going to tell you don't use Zoom because I've used it. I think it's great. A lot of people use Teams because they're using all the other Office 365 features. And that's where Teams really shines, is around the whole collaboration in the whole Office 365, Microsoft 365 ecosystem. I thought I saw something, Amanda, about increasing video, but I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. I'd have to look. There is the roadmap, and I have this up. If you guys are curious about stuff that's coming, here's a link where they give you all the features. There's 31 different features in development. 12 of them are rolling out. There's like multi-window chats are coming, so you can pop a chat out. But all of that is coming. If I hit files, we were on it, it cuts you out, but does not. Oh, interesting. I did not know that. So Greg said if he hits files while you're on the broadcast, it cuts out, but does not action like files. Jennifer, private channels go to a separate, yes, a separate site, Jennifer. It's, yeah, going back to my issues with separate sites. When you add a new person to your team, should they see... Yeah, Amanda, I believe, do you remember, Santos? I believe they see the whole chat history once they get added. If they get invited to a team, can they go back and see previous chat history?
They should be able to. They can scroll back up through it, yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case, because then they can get some context too if they're jumping in the middle of a conversation. Whiteboard, oh, look, we got a whiteboard MVP. Whiteboard, it's in the share tray when inside a Teams meeting. After meeting, still be shared with everyone in the meeting while also inside the tenant. Later, you can share the link directly with the whiteboard. So there's the instructions on the whiteboard. Thanks again. Appreciate you guys all attending, and stay safe out there. Wash your hands, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you again later.